Alright, so I got everything all cleaned up. That's about as cleaned up as I get the primary. I got a new cam plate. Splines are a lot better in there than the other two that I got over here. I'm going back to stock 700 weights. And here I'm working on the secondary. I took that apart for the first time in 3 years. So you got this piece, this collar, spring, this piece, and the nut. The grease I used inside of it is just Maya Stick number 26 multi-purpose high temp grease. Some people use Tink Seal. I think you could technically use the Ultramatic grease, but I know the Ultramatic grease is more for the primary in here, which I always use that in the primary part. But so we'll see. I've been using this for 5-6 years, and this secondary still looks brand new in there. Yeah, I only have 2,000 miles on the Grizzly, but let me tell you what, it's a hard 2,000 miles. So, but yeah, I'm just pressing a spring down. This plate will bottom out on the shoulder, and then you just get this nut started, which is kind of a pain in the ass. You always got to use a chisel to kind of hit it on and off. So it might be, you can probably see the cut right here in the nut for me hitting it with the chisel. Hard to get a wrench in there. Yeah, I'm about to order a new one, but next year. Do it right. If you do this right, it should spin right on. I kind of give it half a dozen taps with the hammer and chisel. Just like that, just to tighten it up. And then all you do is release it. It should stay. And there you go. Basically, the secondary's done. Stick her back on the spline shaft. Throw a little grease on that. But I got the case all nice and cleaned out. So a little bit of dirt up in here and shit, but you're always gonna get dirt everywhere. So as long as you clean this bad boy out every once in a while. Alrighty. Alright, secondary's all on. I do stick a bunch of grease on the shaft, and when I put it on, grease kind of oozes out. Helps it pack into all the stuff that moves on the secondary. I do take brake cleaner, and I wipe down these sheaves before I keep putting everything together so they're nice and clean. I put grease. This is the inner sheave for the primary, the fixed one. I put grease on the splines here, and then that's where the shim goes. You can kind of see the dark shade here on where the shim mark is. I use a 1.5 millimeter shim on my setup with that gold EPI spring. I always, when I buy a new part, so I took this cam plate. The cam plate rides, in here, but this is the main thing that this drives the machine. So I always like to make sure that it fits good on the splines here, and there's like no wiggle, so you can tell it's a brand new part. Fits good. So I will start greasing up this primary with Ultramatic. I'll kind of show you what it looks like when I'm done, because you can use too much grease for this. I did it once. The clutch axle all sorts of funky. It doesn't want to open. It gets jerked. It just doesn't work. Just don't use too much grease. Okay, so that is about how I grease the primary. I do the whole thing. I stick a bunch of grease in there, because and then I'll also grease up this piece right here and throw some grease in the center there. But this is what that slides on, so this needs to be slippery, nice and greased. So this cap goes over top, but first I got to put the weights into there. Cam plate goes in there, but that's kind of the gist of it. Not too complicated. Alright, we're getting down there. Just need to grab the cover. Cam plate's in there. Everything's nice and fresh and greased. Throw that on, make sure the bolt holes are half-assed lined up when you do that. So, I'll put her down and start getting everything together. Alright, everything is together. Started it up, I revved it up a few times in neutral. Belt's nice and clean, everything went together real well. Nice fresh grease on everything. Yeah, so Just gotta warm up the black RTV. Cause I put a new gasket on here every single time I put the belt cover back on. But I gotta warm these up. And I just take a little bit on my fingers and I layer this gasket with it, and then feed it in here, and then slap it on. You gotta take your time getting it back off, but at least you know it's sealed up pretty good. And I had this thing buried under so much water this past year, and that clutch looked relatively pretty good, as you probably saw earlier in the video.